It's 9:33, 27 minutes away from 10 o'clock as Lexington's Morning News continues. In case you just joined us, our guest is the Kentucky State Director of the Coalition to Protect Kentucky Jobs. His name's Scott Jennings, state affiliate of the Workforce Fairness Institute, which is an organization that is specifically intended to educate voters, particularly in the federal races for Congress, for the U.S. Senate, as the candidates stand on Employee Free Choice Act, EFCA, if you will, which is often referred to as card check. Let's go back to your calls and questions. This is Keith. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, gentlemen. Could you tell me the name of your organization again, sir?
Yes, we're the Coalition to Protect Kentucky Jobs, and on the Internet, that's protectkentuckyjobs.com.
Well, that's interesting, but I believe in truth in advertising. You talk about jobs, and in fact, your organization is comprised, I would assume, of business owners.
We're an organization that is funded by and advocates for small business owners and individuals who maintain a great working relationship with their employees.
Funded by and owned by business owners, you talk about a secret ballot. I'll tell you right up front, I'm a union member, and I believe in the secret ballot. So I'm not on the opposite side, but I do believe in the truth. I wonder if when you organized or asked for volunteers in this organization, did you pressure them at all, these businessmen, or was that a secret ballot?
We ask people to become supporters of our cause every day, and we don't have any shortage of people who support our position on this issue.
Okay. Just want to make that point. You talk about union thugs forcing somebody to join a union, and I admit that it probably happens in some times, but I can also name you as many or more instances where owner thugs have forced people to stay out of a union. I believe in collective bargaining, not some kind of rampant unions, but I believe in collective bargaining. And I think you know as well as I do that a lot of places, and I hate to throw Toyota there, but it comes out to mind, they basically tell their employees, you start a union, we're gone.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in collective bargaining? Do you believe that those decisions should be made between the owners and the workers, or do you think the federal government should be able to show up and dictate terms to everybody without a vote?
Well, that's a good point, but I believe under our current system, the arbitration is eventually in the hands of the government. Is that not right?
But it's not it is not forced binding arbitration. This law would make it forced and binding for no less than 2 years, and that means if the workers don't like it, even if, let's say that happens to wherever you work, and if you don't like it, you have no recourse. You don't get a vote on it. You can't do anything about it. So it could be a bad deal for workers and the business owners, and it could cause a business to, if they can't comply with what the government says, it could cause them to have to shut down or move. So it's not a good deal for workers. If you have the government in there dictating to a business and to the workers, here's the terms of your employment, and here's the terms of how you're going to operate your business. If the business can't comply, the jobs could be lost, and that means someone in your position would have no say in it. You'd have no vote on it, and it could result in job loss for you and your colleagues. So we believe that the government dictating to business and to workers how they have to work within their privately held business is really a bad deal for everybody.
Well, that's a good point. In the job that I do now, we can go to arbitration at the end run, and I suspect your business is the same. You're talking about a change in the difference of the time allowed there. Am I correct?
Well, it's a change in the difference of the time allowed, but here's the key point. This law would make it forced binding arbitration. You can go to mediation arbitration now, but this makes it forced binding arbitration. That means at the end of the day, after the time has run out, 90 days, then the government can show up, dictate to both sides, okay, here's the way it's going to be for you, and here's the way it's going to be for you. No questions asked, no recourse, nothing. And we think that's a bad deal for everybody.
I don't like the 90 days, but if I could get an answer out of you, is that not the case now?
No, I said no, it's not the case now. We don't have forced binding arbitration. This law would institute forced binding arbitration.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but I just want to make my points that there are two sides to every story. And
I'm glad you called because we needed the other side. Keith, tell me about your situation with the union to which you belong. Are you concerned about your pension?
Oh, yes, and I'm concerned about our job, and I'm concerned about overbearing unions, but I'm also concerned about taking away our ability to develop a collective bargaining. Sure, we're all concerned about our job.
So is in your opinion, is this going too far in the other direction?
Yes, I wouldn't vote for it.
You wouldn't?
No, sir.
Okay, I appreciate your call. Thank you.
I think that was a good caller because clearly he's in a union. He has he has his side of the story, as he said, but he also clearly has concerns that this may be tilting way too far towards what the union bosses would want. And I feel for that gentleman. He did mention his pensions, and we talked about it before the break. But man, these pensions are underfunded by billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars anyway. And somebody like that is on the hook for this lavish spending by the union bosses. I mean, look at all the money they spend on politics, hundreds of millions of dollars, and that money could be going to, shoring up these pension funds for people like the last caller.
John, good morning.
Hey guys, what's going on? I used to work for a union. I do not support them. To me, it's another word for organized crime. Also, not only do I not like the unions in the private sector, is that when JFK signed the bill to allow union workers in the public sector, that means that the actual taxpayers are paying for Democrat campaigning. And that's mostly what they do with the money that they take from the individual workers, private sector and the public sector, and campaign for the people who will give them the most perks, such as politicians. And so what's your comment on that?
Well, it's a great point. I mean, they force people into unions, they take the dues, they have forced union dues, and then the union bosses decide to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on campaigns, just as the caller said. And in many cases, they are spending those forced union dues on politicians, in favor of politicians who the rank-and-file workers may not support. And the rank-and-file workers who are paying for that spending, that lavish political spending, they never get a say in where that money goes in campaigns. And so we don't think that's right, and we think that money would probably be better spent not on politics, but on shoring up these pension funds that have been mismanaged and are woefully underfunded.
So you didn't have a good experience with the union, I take it, John?
No, not really. I really admire what Chris Christie's doing in New Jersey, especially with the teachers union, actually standing up to these goons. And, because union, I believe that you can have a union, but I don't believe that they're up to no good. So,
you never met a union you liked, in other words, huh?
No. Like I said, it's when I hear union, I think of organized crime.
And what he said is true. You can have a union. I mean, let's get this clear. It's possible to form a union in a company in the United States. There are rules in place set by the National Labor Relations Board that govern how unions come into existence. And the fundamental piece of that is that there is a secret ballot election before you can get to the place where you actually have a union. This legislation takes the secret ballot out of the equation, and so you're going to have a bunch of people in a business that are harassed into signing these cards with people looking over their shoulders, and we think it's fundamentally un-American to take away the right to a secret ballot.
John, thanks. Appreciate your call.